Welcome to our Shield of the Sun video entitled NARC, Community-Based Stalking. In this video we're going to talk about a controversial subject that has been talked about throughout many internet media outlets, through various internet channels or various videos. It has now been even more exposed on certain news channels and even on certain documentaries that were featured in Britain and in the United States and places around the world. This particular phenomenon, called a phenomenon basically, but really not a phenomenon, but more like a conspiracy within the community and a controversy that connects back to government experiments, is really the proper face of this particular issue that we're going to discuss. We're going to discuss this issue that has often been called gang stalking, or it's often been called community-based harassment is the term that they want to really use now, which is the proper, I believe it is a proper term, because it really is a form of harassment that is centered with using community watch. So, but I want to talk about the logic and the parameters of this particular thing. To give really just helpful tips and helpful understanding to the situations that people could be having who are still probably facing this particular issue today, or they're trying to recover from the damages that were done from this particular issue. So I'm going to talk about it in a more broad text in terms of the fact that I want to kind of relate this message to people who either don't know about it or people who do know about it and were victims to it. So let's talk about some of the aspects of this. Let's talk about where this phenomenon, as that's called, came from. Where did community-based harassment come from? Where does gang stalking or group stalking persons come from? Well, first off, it is based in bigotry. It is based in racism. It is based within a group having an indifference toward another group of persons or a person themselves. So it isn't always just about skin color. Sometimes it's about other issues as well. Whatever the case is, what the government's part in it, if we talk about the recent cases, has a lot to do with military experiments and more of shadow government experiments. But before I get into that, I want to talk about how the community themselves gets involved in things like that. I want to give some examples to give you an understanding. In the early 1900s, we had a problem with lynching. Lynching was a very big problem. And a lot of people may not know exactly how lynching was, how it occurred. How does a community get together in groups and take someone and hang them and make a sport out of it, make a festival out of it? Well, first it started with the fact that the towns that were involved in lynching had community watch in their towns. These community watch members came from church groups, or they came from educational institutions, or they came from other political groups, local political groups, or they came from merchant fields. So they're like a collection of people. They're a collection of people who are hearing the latest political arguments and ideas of that day. Meaning political parties, which represents a party within the government, will come to those communities and tell them things to either incite their support or to incite what is called rivalry or hatred toward whatever it is they're talking about. So with a lot of lynchings, it was very racially motivated and politically motivated, because they literally believed that a lot of the black civil rights groups were involved with subversive communist groups would then upstart their democracy. So it was a way to really, which wasn't true in the sense that it was a direct threat to them. It was more true in the sense that they were learning tactics from other political groups to apply it to their own political agenda. which is something the other groups were guilty of doing as well. It was just that they did not want the competition. They did not want to compete or to deal with this upstart political group that could be influencing certain members in their community. So they stupidly thought that in order to eradicate this influence, they would have to get rid of the people in their community who could be influenced by said upstart political parties, or controversial political parties as that was called. So one of the ways they started doing that was they were told by these more radical members of these political parties to make examples out of them, to discourage others from listening to other political parties or other political ideas they do not agree with. So lynching was what they started doing back then. They would grab these persons, sometimes frame them for things they didn't do. For instance, in some of these lynchings, they would enlist a female to create a situation with someone they have targeted, get this person compromised in this situation, and once said situation has been fulfilled, they would then create a controversy in regards to that situation by declaring they have been raped by the person or the person has attacked a member of their family, but leave out all the other things that could have been the real face and truth of the situation. The whole aim is to just get that person to be either trumped up on charges or to be compromised in something they have entrapped that person in. Meaning they take part in a situation and they set up a situation so that you will feel guilty for it, so that you will feel you're totally responsible for it, that this lynching or that this abuse is going to happen to you because you screwed up and you need to pay. So it's also a psyop as well, because it covers over their intent. It triangulates their intent over to their victim, and thus the victim is lynched, and the persons or the group lynching them usually do not face any criminal charges because of all the things they accuse this person of, and the confusion is then brought into the case, which then screws it up for the courts. So then the courts have to throw it all away. They can't do anything with it because the whole thing is in a complete a disarray. There's no organization to pinpoint anything because of the amount of lies and the amount of deception and the amount of power that goes with these particular actions. Now, lynchings went on for quite a while, and they stopped due to the victory that a lot of the civil rights groups managed to ascertain. But that didn't mean that community stalking or community harassment stopped. It just means they changed their tactics. And they actually laid low for quite a while. But after 9/11, that's when this type of disposition started to arise again, because they found another excuse to bring it back again. So with that being said, that's just to give one example of what the intricacies of this particular controversy is like, which is why it's so hard to relate with the victims or to even identify the victims or to even understand what really happened to them. Because by understanding what happened to them is also exposing this racist, dictatorial, indifferent element in their community who just happen to be the community leaders, who have this image of they can do no wrong and that they're good people and blah, 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 and things of that sort. They hide behind the facade of piousness. And so because they hide behind the facade of piousness, it's hard to identify them. So that's why this video is entitled Narcs, because the truth is the people who take part in community harassment, who engaged the lynchings in the past and who engaged these mind control gang stalking methods of today, happen to be narcissists. So you have to understand what that is all about. These people who do that usually are narcissistic people. They hide behind a facade of piousness because this is what they're all about. They're all about the image. They're all about what they can present. So to understand it, a narcissistic personality is someone who has no compassion. They have no empathy. The other aspect about them is that they become bored in life and they find enjoyment in abusing people and setting up situations that would be so horrible for people and so unfathomable to other people that then they laugh about it and they get their rocks off on it. They enjoy it. Narcissist people, to understand it, every family on earth has one. You may even have 2 or 3. Every family on earth has a Cain. They may have 2 or 3 Cains. Every family on earth, every culture on earth have evil persons born in their family. Sometimes a household may be without their Cain. Their Cain could be their uncle living in another house, or it could be their brother living in the house, or their sister, or even their mother or their father. It's a characteristic trait when it comes to narcissism. It's connected with a generational curse. It's connected with demonic activity. It's connected with the sole personality of Satan himself. And this particular disposition, when a person is a narcissist, they're very different from other people. They're also very secretive. They're also very elusive. And they're very hard to catch because they misdirect and they triangulate everything they do. Most narcissists today are covert. They used to be overt, but they learned that being overt got them caught up in too many problems, so now they've learned to be very covert. They target specific members of their family and see if they can get them involved in certain harassment groups in order to ruin their lives. That is really the true face of community-based harassment, or what you call gang stalking. This is where the government element comes into play. The government knows that there are community groups that are hateful. The government knows that there are family members within families who will use other family members for their own amusement and enjoyment. There are government agents that can identify the narcissistic members of your family. And there are also government agents that can identify church groups, community groups that have hateful dispositions. One of the things our government wanted to do in the late 90s is that they developed a lot of EMF technology, a lot of electromagnetic frequency technology. They came in the size of watches and the size of buttons and the size of remotes. But the thing was, they didn't have a real good agenda in terms of how to experiment with that. They were experimenting around the world, using it on other people there, mostly in the NATO countries, where they were able to have that access. And then they started experimenting on their own people. They started applying this justification in the 2000s, and then they received legal justification on their own end in terms of the CIA operation when 9/11 hit. Because when 9/11 hit, they gave them the excuse to have Homeland Security and to enforce the invasion of our rights, the invasion of our privacy, and it enabled the military, or the shadow side of the military. I'm not talking about the open military, by the way. I'm not talking about the regular Army or the regular Marines. I'm talking about the experimental black side of the military. We're talking about places where military projects take place under classified means, meaning people who've been in the military have probably heard about it, maybe they've seen it, maybe they have experienced it, but they're not directly involved. The people involved are involved in the classified projects, which connects with Central Intelligence and NSA. Now, these guys always got crazy experiments, nutty experiments, things that'll make your stomach turn inside out. Some pretty sick stuff. One of the sick things they wanted to do was they wanted to infiltrate these community-based groups that were hateful, and then get a hold of certain families that those community-based groups can use in order to target certain people in those families to experiment these devices on them. So the first thing they did was they started recruiting people in these communities. And how they did that was they first started out as acting troops or they started out as government political groups to work in the media. Some of them were job offers. They were offering like jobs, but they just didn't know what kind of jobs they were. A lot of them were recruited through occult members like lodges and other occult groups who would work with groups within the community, and that would be like 80% of their members. And then to fill out the rest of the members, they would sell them on different opportunities they can have if they take part in certain government experiments, and that's how they recruited the rest. But everyone they recruited usually had a narcissistic, racist, bigoted, ignorant mindset. They were usually people with a very low IQ. They were hardly college educated. They were hardly smart or intelligent. They didn't have a lot of understanding of other people's feelings. And these were people living in a bubble and living really within their narcissistic mindset. They were willing to work with the government in selling out people in the community. And what they would do is that once this community organization has been turned on to the government agenda, they have been shown the type of devices they want to use, or the type of psychological, because it wasn't always the practice with the devices, it was also a practice within manipulation itself, to see how certain things they do would affect their minds and how it would control their minds, and how the devices can be infused with that to make that situation even worse. So these people actually were paid for a time. They're actually given a home, and they're given this station for a time as they engage in a period. Sometimes it's from anywhere from 2 to 4 years when victims are receiving this. So what happens is, once this community is set, once these people are committed to this government project, they then seek out a family. They look for a family that they can target, and it's usually a family that is not like the rest of their neighbors, meaning probably not racist, probably not bigoted, probably, you know, they got other problems. They could be even occult members, but not as bad as others. So they're usually families that they consider to be weak, they consider to be not as important, which they would consider to be expendable. That's how they see this crap, by the way. They have no compassion. So you have to remember that. They see everything as what could be expendable. Usually, if it's like a prominent Spanish family, or a prominent family that could be white but not like everyone else, or even like a Spanish family, just a family that lives or is enabled to live in their communities that they really don't like, and now they have a way to mess with them, what they then start doing is finding ways to infiltrate that family. So if they're like targeting a son in that family, they'll send him like a girlfriend, and then that'll get him to be introduced to it. They'll be real friendly with him, but really get him to have ideas to turn against his family. The other assets they do is that if they can't do it with him, they'll go to the family members themselves. What they're looking for with family members is they're not going to go to all of them. They go to the leader. They go to the most influential member of your family. And then the key point with that is that they have to go to the narcissistic member of your family. So let's say the influential member of your family is not a narcissist. They won't be able to work with him. But let's say there's someone in his family that helps him out, and he or she is a narcissist. They go to that person. They'll turn that person on to what they're doing, get that person to manipulate the members of the family to their ideas, all in an effort to target this individual and their family. The reason why they're doing that is because they want to get the family members of that individual to turn on that individual, so that that will make his or her life completely ruined, completely shattered, and they'd be in a disillusionment about what's really going on because they've been totally lied to. Now, when they're successful at getting the narcissistic members of your family to use their other family members to turn against you, then what they have is a community-based organization that is ready to pounce on them, and they have family members in their pocket that will not help said victims when community members pounce on them. Now, this is where police action comes into play. To go to the cops and tell them that you're being community stalked by a community-based organization, the cops will look at you like the criminal. They won't help you if you come like that. Because the truth is, cops work cops in America, I'm not talking around the world, but I'm talking in America. They work at local and state levels. So if there's a federal government with an agenda, an experiment, and with some type of hidden intelligence authority enabling themselves to work with communities that cops, community-based organizations that cops have to work with, police officers, who generally get their information from them in regards to understanding the community they have to patrol, they will not help the victim. Because the victim is being targeted by the government, and the victim is being targeted by the community watch that generally the police officers trust. The reason why the police officers won't help them is because they don't believe them. Generally, they're trained to hear stories like that and think that he or she just needs to go to a mental hospital, or they could be off their meds. Now, the police officers who do know that this stuff is going on are literally told to protect the community harassers and not their victims. Because the community harassers are already convinced that the victim is a bad person, because that's what they've been told, or that's what they are telling themselves to believe in. The family members of the victim also doesn't believe the victim, because they have been turned against the victim. So what you now have is this victim is totally alone, with no support, with no family, no community, and not even law enforcement. The only thing you really can do is that if you get out on your own and you have to live on your own, if you can find them committing a legitimate crime, then that's what you have to go to the cops with. That this person robbed me and it was just a robbery, but you can't tell them what the full story is, because then that destroys your credibility, because they don't understand it, or they just don't believe it, or they're completely ignorant to it. And then that's just a sad reality. You see, government ops is all about operating in the shadow. It's all about hiding in plain sight. I want to say that again, hiding in plain sight. And how do you do that is that you change the perceptions of the people around you. So the people around you will have no idea what's going on. But you'll be paranoid of them because you can't really identify between them and what's really going on. So what you're being really subjected to is a mind control experiment. Now, the sad thing about being subjected to that is that if you survive it, the main aim they're trying to get you to do is that they're trying to get you to kill yourself. Or they're trying to get you to kill someone else so that you'll just go to jail, where they'll just monitor you 24 hours in jail. If you manage to survive it, I could just tell you this. What will happen to you is that you will move away from them. You will discover the truth of what really happened, and the best advice to give you on that end is called no contact at all. If your family members were involved in that, if your family members listened to a narcissistic member of your family to initialize these hateful things towards you, and you found out that that was the case, and you contact them again, you're a sucker. Or you're just that emotionally controlled by them. Narcissists have a personality like a vampire. Their whole lives revolve around you. Community-based harassers are the same. They have no life. They have no love. They have no empathy. They're just complete empty people, filled with hate, filled with disgusting feelings, and that's all they know how to express. So that's why they come at you, blaming you for things that they do, or accusing you of things they are guilty of. Narcissists like to play the victim. Therefore, the person who orchestrated your family members to turn on you will play the victim. He'll play like, I'm the victim, you hurt me and you deserve it, even though it's actually the other way around. That's called misdirecting and triangulating the situation. That's what narcissists do. The community-based harassers are also narcissists. So once again, they're the victim, not you. They'll blame you for all the things they had to do to you because you made them do it, because you didn't do this or you didn't do that, or whatever it was, whatever disillusion is going on in their minds. So the community-based harassers aren't sorry either. The government who orchestrated both groups to do this to you, you're just another number on the page. You're just another experiment. You're another checkbox. You're another do this, don't do that. You're just another piece to their puzzle in the project that they're actually developing. They have no love or concern for you. They don't even care that it even happened. They're going to move on with the day and eat chicken and find another victim. That's the shadow op. It's no compassion. There's no love in it. So what you got is family members who ain't sorry, community-based harassers who ain't sorry, and a government that ain't sorry. The only thing you can do is ride out the storm and then move away and have no contact at all. Cut off your family, get away from that community, take notes of those faces that you remember, and never ever talk to them again. Never speak to them again, never give them the time or day, nothing, nothing. What you have to do is heal. You have to heal from the effects, because what they've done to you is this. First off, they do what's called loud noise campaigns, where they'll bang their car or slam their car or slam their doors, and everywhere you walk they're slamming doors, slamming cars, slamming on your ceiling, shining lights into your house. What they want to do is get you to associate those noises with your abuse, because those are common sounds that you hear out in the world. People closing their door, people playing their music, all those type of things. Those sounds are common. However, they're not supposed to be like overly common that you're hearing them all the time. Usually, stalkers use common sounds so that you would associate your pain with those sounds. And that will inadvertently make you paranoid with normal people around you. So therefore, some guy could just be getting out of his car, he's just slamming his door, but you're taking it personally because some personal stuff happened to you using sounds like that. So this is what you're going to have to heal from. You're going to have to go somewhere else and heal from this. Heal from the effects and learn how to live, or learn how to heal and live with this pain that you have. And the only way you can do that effectively. Now, I know some people can refer you to a psychologist and all that. I'm referring you to Jesus Christ, because that's who helped me. That's who will help a lot of you. You can be delivered from it. The simple fact is that these community-based harassers can't do that for the rest of your life, nor your family, nor the government op on you, because the money runs out. That means time and resources runs out. It's an experiment that goes on for that particular stage, and then they move on to the next stage, and then they move on to the next. What we have here is a lot of this is being run by left and right-wing parties. So you have shadow ops in both parties who work in correlation with church groups, institutions, community groups, things like that. Now, are some of the things you can watch out for in regards to all this. First off, be careful what communities you move into. First, I could just tell you right now, most places in Chicago are screwed. They're just filled with community harassers. So don't even bother living there. New York City has the same problem too. So does Seattle, so does LA. A lot of cities in Texas have the same problem, even down south. What I've noticed is that it's major cities, the cities that are very big. They have certain communities or community watch in certain neighborhoods who don't like outsiders, who don't like new people moving in, or people they don't like moving in. And these people are keeping their ear to the ground to any government experiment that they can get a hold on and they can use to harass other people. So understand that bigotry groups and racist groups have not gone anywhere. They've just changed their name and they changed their tactics, and it's become subtle, more creepy, more covert, more sneakier than ever. That's what they've done. They haven't changed. They just changed their MO. So unfortunately, when you move to certain communities like that, and those groups are there, they're already watching you, and they're looking for a way to infiltrate and ruin you. Another thing is, if you got narcissistic members leading your family, that you can identify that this uncle is a narcissist or this mother is a narcissist, and you can see the evil influence they're putting on that family, have nothing to do with them then. Get away from them. Get far away from them. Change your phone number. Cut them off. Pretend like you're not even their family member. Cut them out of your life, because they're going to damage you. They're going to come at you and they're going to damage you. Because the problem is that your family members are allowing themselves to listen to a narcissistic leader. So that narcissistic leader is just abusing the whole situation. He or she is an evil, wicked, uncompassionate, discriminate, racist, bigoted, hateful person. They're like that because they hate themselves. Also, I want to dispel this thing about narcissists, by the way. They're cowards, by the way. Yeah, they're dangerous and they will hurt you because they can't handle the fact when you expose them. They can't handle that. They can't handle it when they have been completely outed and there's no more triangulating. There's no more misdirecting. It's just, I know who you are, you're a scumbag, and I don't ever want to talk to you again. Yeah, that's when they get mad, and that's when they may attempt to hurt you. Usually they'll try to do it themselves, or they'll try to get someone else to do it by getting someone else to feel sorry for their little peddly self, and then they'll come and commit a crime for them. Understand this. Their whole front, their whole I'm strong as steel, I'm confident, I look better than you, it's a front. It's somebody wearing nice clothes. It's somebody who exercises too much. It's somebody who learns rhetoric too much. It's someone who learns how to manipulate and be a sicko far too much. But it is a front. Deep down inside them, they have no life, they have no character, they have no honor, and they definitely have no inspiration for anything. They're empty, they're shells, and they're meaningless. The whole universe can see it. The only ones who don't see it is the world, because the world is too consumed in fakeness. Narcissists are fake people, fake to the bone, fake about everything. They are overly good at presentation. They're excellent at presentation, because presentation is all they got at the end of the day. Cut the presentation out and then find out what you have. That's when they want to hurt you, because they don't want you to see it. They don't want you to realize it, because then the whole game is up and then everyone sees who they are. So understand, that's what narcissists feed on. So do not feed it. Don't admire their clothing. Don't admire their stance, their presentation. Piss on it if you got to. Ignore them. Have nothing to do with them. And don't buy into their lies, because they're nothing. They're nothing at the end of the day. All they got is you. All they got is the people they're using. All they feed on is that control. When that control is broken, then what do they got? Nothing. Period. That's the same thing with community-based harassers. You have to stop looking at them as if they're righteous, as if they're pious, as if it's just a misunderstanding or it's just confusion. No, there's no misunderstanding. They targeted you under a bigoted, logical, in their mind, discriminate point of view. They targeted you in that way. They already judged you. They already wrote you off. And they took money from a shadow government op existing in a different name, usually hiding in colleges and other institutions. Took money from them to harm and hurt you. You have to reflect on that. You have to really think about how evil that truly is, the depth of how sick that really is. So a lot of these things will affect you. They will ruin your life. They damage your life for quite a while. So to understand all this is that people who have been victims like this, to this type of harassment, it's not new. It's just a repackaged thing of an old thing. It's a thing that's been repackaged with an intent to do military experiments. It connects with Project Bluebeam. It connects with the HARP devices. Because HARP also has a side deal or a side operation involving Bluebeam, which is to involve these frequencies to be shot at people's heads to see what they'll do. And it just isn't enough for them to just radiate the entire population with it, but they want to target families, infiltrate those families, and see what it will do to somebody personally. And that's what the victims of what is called gang stalking and such names are truly victims of. That's what really happened to them. That they really were singled out by, first off, a government that saw opportunity there. They saw that community members didn't like those persons for whatever reason, and they were ignorant, racist, stupid reasons that came from hypocrites, so that should tell you something. The government of that particular operation truly saw that this guy's family members were screwed, and their leader of that family was a narcissist. So it was like, wow, it's a great opportunity for us. We can really go gung-ho with this guy or this woman and just see how it just turns out, because they don't care about you. They don't care about your life, and they don't care about how that affected you. The only one who cares is Jesus Christ. And he's the only one that's going to see you through something like that and help you to heal. Now, as for these people, do they benefit from such activity? Do these narcissistic family members benefit from such activity? Do these community-based harassers benefit from such activity? Does the government op benefit from such activity? Well, the end results have come in, and the answer is no. Most of the survivors actually move somewhere else, and they do rediscover their lives again. Most of the people who took part in hurting them have their lives ruined later on. You want to know why? It's a cycle of destruction. Narcissistic family members, when they can no longer abuse that family member, they will move on to another family member until they've destroyed all the members of their family, and then they themselves have nothing left. And then they're destroyed because they get exposed. The community-based harassers, when they're done destroying someone else, this leaves bad feelings among the group about what they just took part in. And thus they turn on each other, or they find another target, and then they turn on that target, and then that target kind of slips from them. But the main assets that happen with the community harassers is that usually when they're done their dirty work, they turn their dirty work on themselves. Because they're so hateful and they're so pumped up by what they've done that they can't help but to vent it on each other. Community-based harassers are like rats that eat other rats. They're like cannibals. They're parasites. They feed on each other, and this is what they feed with. So what happens with them is that if they're a church group, they lose numbers. If they're a community charity group, they lose money. They lose members. If they had influence in the community, another group takes over from them because they've knocked off with influence. On the government ops part of it, it's a lot of money spent. It's a lot of time, resources spent. And oftentimes the shell of their information then gets shifted in classified projects. So people get fired, people get left out, and then cover-ups have to happen because these operations, though they could have a legal way of covering it, the operations MO was illegal, so they'd have to use illegal tactics, and therefore they're going to have to engage in assassination. Meaning they're going to have to kill people who actually knew what happened to you in order to cover up their own end of things. So the people involved in it end up in real bad situations later on. So there's no reason to really get off your rocker about, I want justice, I want payback, I want them to feel what I feel. Believe me, I understand. I understand what you're feeling, you know, but you don't need to react that way. You don't need to even think about them. They're done. If you survived it and you're in the healing stages, what you have to focus on is healing your mind. healing your mind of the damage that was done. You're going to have to overcome the paranoia they did to you, the disillusionments they did to you, even the hateful feelings they put inside you. You have to start healing from all that, because a horrible crime has happened to you. It resulted in your life being taken away from you. And the only medicine to that is to restart another one. Because what that experiment did was destroy you. And you have to accept the fact that it was family members being misguided by narcissistic members of your family who did that to you. It was a community that, instead of looking out for you, decided to throw you under a bus, and they did it for fun. Their whole mindset was they were having fun. It was the time of their life. It was a magical moment for them to do all of that to you. This is where they get their rocks off. This is what they call fun. When someone else is bleeding, someone else is hurting, then they feel better. You know that's not normal. So be aware of the type of communities you move into. Make sure the people in that community you move into are generally educated to the point that they have expressed true intelligence. Bigotry is not intelligence. Clique groups are not intelligence. Community groups that are all about their own little group is not intelligence. Racism is not intelligence. Narcissistic people who are all about vanity and stupid things want to appear intelligent, want you to believe they're intelligent, but they're not. Their actions prove it all the time. A sign of a truly intelligent community is a community that would never do that in the first place. Let me say that again. The sign of a truly intelligent community is a community that would never do that in the first place. The sign of a truly intelligent family is a family that truly sticks together, and they do not allow things like that to arise. A truly intelligent family is ruled by intelligent persons and not narcissistic persons using their mind for evil. Narcissistic persons want you to believe they're smart. They're actually stupid. They may know how to count. They may know how to manipulate, but they're stupid. Look at the ideas they formulate with what they know. Who does it benefit? No one. In fact, it destroys and makes things worse. Stupid people do that. See, stupid people will find something and make it worse because that's all they know how to do, because the condition of being stupid is not applying yourself to the knowledge that cures it. They don't want to be corrected. They don't want to understand what they've done. What they want is to continue abusing you so they can feel better about themselves. The government, in terms of the shadow op on this, involving themselves in this, is what made Edward Snowden leave. This is the real reason Edward Snowden left. Why he left military intelligence and went to Russia. It was because that was the reason why. The shadow op involved themselves in communities and harmed American citizens who were no threat to anyone. And in fact, the citizens they harmed showed that they had high IQs and were intelligent people who could be doing positive, intelligent things for a lot of people and making improvements. A lot of them were seen as positive change agents who never were able to express whatever they had because an ignorant, stupid community buried them and destroyed them so that they can live fat on the hog. So they can enjoy themselves with fornicating desires, drug desires, greedy desires, so they can stare themselves in the mirror all day long, admire themselves while people are being destroyed that they personally don't like. It's like the little kid who turns his friends against the other kid because he just doesn't like the way that kid looks. Yeah. Now you understand, that's not intelligent. That's stupid. So in order to avoid communities like that, don't move into stupid-based communities. Don't move into a community because of how it looks, because of what kind of people are there. Find out who's really there. Find out what type of intentions they are. What kind of people are they really? And if you do live in a community and you happen to discover it, stay away from it. Don't involve yourself with it. If you're in a family and one of your narcissistic, hateful, bigoted, I'm all about myself family member wants to come to you and tell you to turn against your brother, turn against your cousin, really question why that person is telling you that. Why is that person setting up a situation like this? Why are we all taking roles and characters so that when this person comes through the door, why are we going to treat him? Why is this really happening? You have to really discover why. So understand that if you survive this, don't go looking for revenge. Don't go writing them letters. Don't go expressing what they did to you, because they don't care. The best revenge is no contact when it's all over with. I really hope this video helped you, because that's what it's really based to do. This has been our Shield of the Sun video called Narc Community-Based Stalking. If you'd like to send a donation to Shield of the Sun, please send it to the name Miguel Jiminez, spelled Miguel-Jimenez, at P.O. Box 39204, Charlotte, North Carolina, 28278. You can also purchase books written by me that would be very, very helpful for you. It's at www.lulu.com. When you get to that website, on that search engine, you're going to type Michael Herr, spelled Michael, last name like Ben-Hur, that name, Michael Herr, and then the books would pop up there. And I just hope this really helped you to understand that it's never a good idea to turn against your own family members. As a community, if any of you are in Community Watch, don't enlist yourself in hating on people you don't know. That's sick. That's wrong. And for those of you using microwave devices on people, what you're doing is worse than rape. I just want you to know that. And the only end results are going to be this. If your victims survive it, they'll expose you and never have anything to do with you again. You yourselves will be reaping your own rewards. You'll be getting payback from similar persons just like yourself. God bless you to all. Be intelligent. Good night.